Dear all, thank you for joining. We're at the top of the hour, so I believe it's a good opportunity to start the webinar. Welcome to our guest speaker, one of our guest speakers today, Dr. 𝗪cisław𝗵𝗫, who is part of the Digital Innovation Hub Trachea team, and since the inception of the 𝗪𝗏𝗀𝗏 project is leading the online trainings and workshop series, which started in September 25 and are concluding with today's edition. Dr. 𝗵𝗫 is an expert in the field of compliance with certification as internal and leading auditor in the field of cybersecurity for many years and for many companies. So given his expertise, we invited him to translate the Cyber Resilience Act to the attention of the audience of today's workshop and the previous ones, of course. He will tell you a bit more about his work with 𝗪𝗏𝗀𝗏, with the Digital Innovation Hub Trachea, and in a broader manner. But before that, I just want to make a few announcements. First of all, today's webinar is being recorded. So for everyone who is joining for a first time, please be aware that we will be publishing the recording of today's session online together with all of the materials that are going to be presented today. These materials are being stored in a digital repository, which will be available as we speak and after the session. I will share my screen for a brief moment in order to demonstrate where you can find this particular documentation. So this is the link that you're going to be provided with, either directly or through a URL shortener in the chat for today's session. And actually, I will do it on the go as we speak. Just want to make sure that everyone can receive the link. So this link will help you navigate the content from the previous workshops. The presentations are available in the folder bearing the same name. As you see right from the start of the series, we have the materials from September last year. Then we have two other important folders that are being kept up to date. The folder Useful Resources contains information that is of importance to you in regards to the Cyber Resilience Act and its application. These materials are coming not necessarily from the 𝗪𝗏𝗀𝗏 project itself. They may be coming from other partnering projects, such as I think you can see some of them within the presentation called CRA Cluster and CRA Cluster meeting in particular. You will see that participants within this cluster are not limited to, but include the following projects: Secure, Octet, CRA AI, CyberFront, and many others. So useful materials we disseminate through this repository coming from the rest of the team. Recently, we also added this particular document coming from ENISA and many other documents coming from the European Union Agency on Cybersecurity. But this particular report concerns the mapping of the CRA Act requirement standards, or actually I would say the mapping of the requirements towards the standards that are being developed and are available on the market for us to prove conformity against them. in terms of our operations, in terms of our products with digital components. So very useful documents being kept up to date, but my point was the following. You need to follow not only the most recent presentations and the most recent resources coming from our other partnering projects, but also the most recent developments around the regulation itself. For example, since our last meeting in March, we updated this repository with very interesting guidance that was published, even though currently it is a draft version. The public consultation around this draft version ended in April 14th, earlier this month. This is a document of about 70 pages that we will, of course, update once this draft is a formal official release. But basically, it covers guidance on how to apply the CRA in practice. So its intention is to help manufacturers, developers, and numerous other stakeholders to understand the practical obligations based on the key provisions of the CRA. Within this public consultation that lasted for almost a month and a half, as you see, more than 250 entries were provided in terms of feedback, most of them coming from different organizations, but some of them from individual European citizens. So make sure to have a look at them. We also provided important feedback to this particular draft communication of the European Commission concerning the CRA and clarifying the CRA further. Consider it as a sort of a frequently asked questions document, even though you don't have necessarily the questions, but definitely the answers to questions that have been brought to the attention of the Commission throughout the months in consideration of the application, the actual practical application of the CRA. So I will share the link. You can either check the document from our repository or download it yourself from here, but make sure to check some of the more interesting feedback entries that have been provided over this period of 30 plus days. Now, the final thing I need to say, I'm obliged legally to say contractually, is who am I and why I'm speaking to you right now. You know very well the event that you're attending, as you have already registered for this event through the 𝗪𝗏 project social media channels, through our platform, and directly through the Zoom webinars link. But you may have missed to notice the names of the speakers of today's session. I have already presented you Miroslav, and he will present the rest of the colleagues later on. But myself, if you have missed this information, my name is 𝗪ποιηδ, and I am part of the 𝗪𝗏 project team representing the Digital Innovation Hub Trakia, which organization on its end is responsible for the dissemination effort under the project. So basically, we try to put more clarity on what we do, what we build, and how the system that we're building is going to be of use to the small and medium enterprises across the European Union. So I'm not speaking on behalf of any European Union agency or stakeholder. I'm speaking as an expert in the field of compliance, as a security compliance director of a leading trust service provider, and also as a chairman of the board of the Digital Innovation Hub Trakia. But if you want to learn more about the rest of the partners taking part in the project, you can do so through our website. As you see, their logos, you may know or not necessarily their names, but we have development partners from Romania. We have research and development partners, an institute, a leading one from Poland. We have leading consultants from Italy in the face of PMF research coordinating the project. We have Unisys from Estonia, which is actually the company that is more or less leading the vision on how the 𝗪𝗏 platform is going to look at the end of the day, at the end of the project. of course, all of us are working hard on developing the tools themselves in alignment with your expectations. That's why we ran a big stakeholder survey a few months ago in order to clarify what are the SME expectations towards the tools that we are building in order to enable SMEs that are subject to regulation, their products, to be precise, their products with digital elements are subject to this regulation. And based on this survey, we developed the beta release version that we already have as 𝗪𝗏 as a platform where you can log in, create your organizational account, create an entry for a product with digital component which you are manufacturing and you are either currently providing or you are expected to provide on the European market to European consumers. And therefore, after this initial setup and check of application of the CRA towards your product, you can start actually filling in the information that will be needed to be provided in terms of internal policies and procedures related to vulnerability management, related to incident management, related to risk. We already hear on the call Yasen Tanev, who is one of our other speakers. I will present him in a few minutes after basically I give the floor to Miroslav to kick off the call. But my point here is the following. If for some reason you have missed the opportunity to provide your feedback on an earlier stage, now our beta release of 𝗪𝗏 system that will be your partner when filling in your documentation concerning the Cyber Resilience Act conformity of your products, then that's not a problem. You can do so. You can provide feedback in the following couple of months because we will continue our work. We will try to push 𝗪𝗏 from beta to stable. Major release expected in the following months. And please reach out officially to our coordinators in case you see a miss opportunity, in case you see something that needs fixing. I will share the link to the beta release of the platform in the chat, and you would be able to have a look later on, of course, because we don't want you to miss the useful content to be provided over the next 90 minutes. But my call to action is clear. Please help us bring the platform live. After the stable release is a fact, we will, of course, announce it officially, and we invite the open source community because this is what 𝗪𝗏 stands for. It stands for Open Source Cyber Resilience Act Tools. So once the stable release is a fact, we will invite the open source community to contribute. But until then, the main contributors that we rely on are you, the early attendees of our trainings and workshops, and the early adopters of the beta release of the platform. Therefore, speaking about early adopters, you can expect in late May a report with best practices, similar to actually what the Commission did for the CRA. So the Commission produced 70-page guidelines on how to apply the CRA. We will produce not necessarily 70 pages, maybe more, maybe less, guideline or guidance document on how to apply the 𝗪𝗏 platform in practice. Expect this document to be live in the end of next month. In the meanwhile, we remain available. We expect your contributions based on what you are currently about to test. And of course, we remain available to clarify further any information that you may request on our end concerning your compliance with the CRA beyond the platform. Our platform is trying to be a toolkit that you can leverage, but do not promise to be a one-size-fits-all solution. There are certain areas of conformity that we do not necessarily cover through the platform. Other platforms which are being developed in the same time by our partners from the different CRA enablement projects that I just shared about that are under the umbrella of the CRA cluster are building similar platforms, similar open source platforms, most of them with similar functionalities, but some platforms provide additional functionalities that we may not necessarily have. So if you see something missing, we will also help you not only translate this from technical perspective to our team as a feedback, but also we will connect you with the rest of the projects, which, by the way, you can also contact directly in case, actually, that's not the CRA cluster that I'm looking for. But okay, I will share the link. I don't want to waste too much time. I will share the link in the messenger. But my point is that our colleagues also remain available. They organize public consultations. They organize meetings with small and medium enterprises from across Europe. And actually, as we speak, 2 events are upcoming in May. Let me check in the useful resource section the CRA cluster website, so cyberstand.eu. Please, colleagues from cyberstand.eu, whomever is watching this live or the recording, apologies for not remembering the right URL. But here you can see the projects I already mentioned, doing CRA enablement similar to our initiative, but also you can check the upcoming events where you can connect with subject matter experts live on the spot across Europe. We had numerous meetings that are behind our backs already, but what is upcoming is the following. On May 4th, if someone is joining us from Sweden, then we would be expecting to see you in Stockholm. We will have a representative of OSCRAT there. Our colleagues from Romania will be visiting for sure. We will also be present in Malta on May 21st on the CRA Standards Unlocked conference that will take place there. And of course, before the summer break, we will have an additional event in Romania that is going to happen on June 24th. In the autumn, there would be many more events, preparatory events. The more we approach 2027, the more opportunities for discussion and for collaboration and for additional guidance precision there will be. But so far, the only event that is officially announced with participation of the partners that are taking part in the projects for CRA enablement under the umbrella of the CRA cluster is the annual 𝗥𝗶𝘀 Security Conference 2026 that will take place in France. So you can find us there. You can reach out to us, and in the meanwhile, we remain available online. Miroslav will present the topic of the day for those of you who do not recall it from last month. I just want to clarify one final thing. These workshops are, I would say, hands-on in a certain manner, not necessarily as interactive as we initially foresaw, due to the fact that we are still in beta release of our platform. So technically speaking, it's not the final thing that would be there for you to work on and basically consider as a product that is out there for you to fill in the information used for your self-conformity preparation work, assessment work. So it's not as interactive as we expected, but it's as hands-on as we've always foreseen the session to be. Which means that we are not only covering the regulatory topic. So we're not simply speaking about what, for example, incident reporting is in terms of CRA, how to do incident reporting per CRA, and so on and so forth. We cover the field of the day from all main angles possible. So we cover the topic of the day from the perspective of the European regulator, of course, from the perspective of this particular piece of legislation, of course, but also we cover it from the perspective of other standards that are out there globally, and we compare the differences, we compare the gaps. For example, we speak about how NIST sees the same topic, but with the differences that there are. 𝗪 is also covering the topic from the perspective as an SME. Last time he made a very nice interactive presentation, but he is the person who helps us look from the eyes of the entity that is actually the subject of the regulation and is trying to be conformant when it comes to his or hers products with digital components, is struggling to understand something. So he is actually our translator to from the regulatory to the business world. And I'm really looking forward also to his contribution later on. Miroslav, with this having been said by me, there is nothing else for me to do but to share the links that I promised, the beta release link of the 𝗪𝗏 and the link to the Cyberstand website, also the link to the 𝗪𝗏 website, but most importantly, in the same time, to listen carefully to what you have presented today, starting with the topic, of course, and with a few words more about yourself. Please, the floor is yours. I'm looking forward to a very important and enriching session ahead.
Thank you, Christian. Can I share my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Christian, for your short introduction of our project 𝗪𝗏 initiatives, platforms, and other open source platforms for compliance management of the CRA. I want to say hello from my side of all participants. Good day, and thank you for joining us today. The topic of this session is risk management. In the next approximately 2 hours, we will look at one simple but very important idea. Cybersecurity is not only about stopping attacks, it's about managing risk. So let's begin our journey from threats to business impact. Before we start, let me say a few words about myself. My name is 𝗪µ𝗶. I work as a lead auditor for management systems. This means I check if companies follow international rules in areas like information security, artificial intelligence, IT services, and quality management. And I'm also the chairman of the Institute of Artificial Intelligence and deputy manager of Bulgarian Union of Standardizers. I take part in many European and national cybersecurity projects. My focus is on standards, resilience, and digital transformation. In addition, I am an assistant professor in UNIBIT, Bulgarian University, where I teach 4 courses: cybersecurity standards, cybersecurity management, cryptography, and zero trust architectures. So today, I will share with you both the academic side and the real world side on risk management. Let's see the structure for today's. Our workshop is about risk management. Session first, which we'll deliver now, is called From Threats to Impact. Thinking in risk, not just security. In this session, we will build the mental model of risk. Now, session 2 is by my colleague 𝗪𝗏. He will speak about how to embed the risk management into the development lifecycle. This is very practical for software teams. Session 3 is by Andrei Nohan, our Romanian colleague. He will explain how to move from regulation to implementation, which with a focus on the new Cyber Resilience Act. So my session is the foundation. The other two sessions built on top of it. Let's now start with the first session. On the screen, you can see our session title, From Threats to Impact, Thinking in Risk, Not Just Security. The image shows many different attacks like arrows going into a lens and only one focused beam coming out. This is the perfect picture of risk management. We have many threats, but we must focus on what really matters for the business. Let's see why. Now we compare two ways of thinking. Please look at this slide. On the left, we have security thinking. On the right, we have risk thinking. Both are needed, but they are not the same. Security thinking is a goal. Stop everything. Stop every attack, every malware, every intruder. This sounds good, but it is an impossible mandate. No company in the world can stop 100% of attacks. The focus is on technical things, cyberspace, vectors, malware,
Да.
firewalls, the perimeters. The success metric is the number of attacks blocked. The fatal flaw is that this approach is disconnected from business objectives. It treats every asset as equally important, and it assumes the perimeter can be fully secured. We know today that the perimeter is gone. People work from home, from a coffee shop, from airports. Real example, in 2070, the company 𝗥𝗶𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗺 had very strong firewalls and many security tools, but they failed to patch one single vulnerability in a patch studs. Attackers stole data on the 147 million people. Security tools were there, but the risk was not managed. The damage was around 1.4 billion US dollars. Now look at the right side, risk thinking. This goal is different, manage business outcomes. This is the strategic mandate. The focus is not on every malware, but on the effect of uncertainty on objectives. The success metrics is keeping cyber risk at a tolerable level, aligned with the company's risk appetite. The strategic advantage is that this approach prioritizes high-value assets, accept that some risk is always present, and helps the
Унова работи
C-level, the
идеално
top
донгала.
managers, make good decision. Yasin, can you stop your microphone?
Yeah, I muted. He is using a certain type of headset that the moment you touch a bit, it turns on the volume. So that should be fine.
Yeah. Thank you, Christian. So a modern trend support this. Gartner predict that by 2026, more than 60% of large companies will use cyber risk quantification, not just technical metrics, when reporting to the board. The yellow text at the bottom is the key message. Cybersecurity is the safeguarding of organizations from cyber risk. Safeguarding means keeping risk at the tolerable level, not eliminate them. Please remember this sentence. To talk about risk, we need clear words. This pyramid shows 4 key terms. They are connected, but they are not the same. Many people mix them up, and that creates confusion. At the bottom, we have threats. A threat is a potential cause of an unwanted cybersecurity incident, which can result in harm. For example, a ransomware group like 𝗥𝗶𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗪 is a threat. A natural disaster like a flood in the data center is also a threat. Threats can be human, technical, or natural. Above the threats, we have vulnerability. A vulnerability is a weakness of an asset or a control that can be exploited. For example, an old unpatched version of Microsoft Exchange is a vulnerability. Weak password policy is also vulnerability. The famous 𝗥𝗶𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗪 case in 2021 show how one small vulnerability in an open source library affected millions of systems around the world. Next, we have incident. An incident is a single event or a series of events that has a significant probability of compromising operations. So when a threat exploits a vulnerability and something bad happens, we have an incident. And at the top, we have risk. Risk is the effect of uncertainty of on objectives. It's the combination of consequences and their likelihood. Risk is not the threat alone. It's not the vulnerability alone. It's the future possibility of impact of the business. Why is this important? Because in modern like Cyber Resilience Act, you must report risk, not just threats. You must show that you understand the link between technical weaknesses and business consequences. Without a precise language, you cannot have precise governance. Now we could understand the anatomy of cyber risk using 3 circles. Risk is the middle where all 3 circles overlap. This is a very important model. The first circle is the threat profile. This includes deliberate attacks like criminal hackers and nation-state actors, but also environmental failures and human error. By the way, human errors is still the number of cause of incidents. A recent report from Verizon showed that around 68% of breaches involve a human element. The second circle is system vulnerabilities. These are unpatched software, misconfiguration, and weak processes. Cloud misconfiguration has become a top vulnerability in the last 3 years. A simple S3 bucket open to the public can expose millions of records. The third circle is asset value or impact. This includes critical business data, operational technology, and reputation. Operational technology or OT is a hot topic now. Attacks on factories, water system, and energy grids show that cyber risk is also physical risk. Risk only exists where all 3 circles meet. Risk only exists where a specific threat can exploit a known vulnerability to impact an asset or value. This is a powerful idea because it gives us 3 ways to reduce risk. We can reduce the threat, for example, with threat intelligence. We can reduce the vulnerability, for example, with patching. Or we can reduce the impact, for example, with backups, encryption, or insurance. Removing any one of these three elements reduce the risk to minimum. A new trend here is AI-driven threats. Generative AI is now used to create more convincing phishing emails and even fake voices. So the threat profile is changing fast, and risk assessment must also change fast. This slide is one of my favorites because it shows the full timeline of an incident. I call it the cascade because each step leads to the next, like water falling down. Step one is the state. A vulnerability exists in the ecosystem. For example, on unpatched server, nothing has happened yet, but the weakness is there. So step two is the trigger. A threat source exploits the weaknesses. For example, attackers scan the internet, finds the server, and uses an exploit. Step three is occurrence. A cybersecurity event happens. There is a change in circumstances. For example, the attackers get access to the server. Step four is the escalation. An incident is declared, there is a breach on cybersecurity or a failure of controls. For example, the attackers move to other system and reach sensitive data. Step five is outcome. The consequence or impact is felt by the business. For example, the data is stolen, the company must pay a fine, and customer lost trust. Look at the two rows below. Security manages the left side on the timeline, vulnerabilities and threats. This is the work of firewalls, antivirus, patch management, but risk management governs the entire continuum to control the right side, the consequences. Now, this is the difference. Security alone cannot save you when the breach is already inside. You also need backup plans, business continuity, incident response, and crisis communication. This slide shows the basic formula of risk. It looks like math, but the idea is simple. Threat multiplied by vulnerability gives us likelihood. A likelihood multiplied by impact gives us the risk level. Likelihood is the probability engine. How likely is it that a threat will succeed? This is based on experience, applicable statistic, attacker motivation, the cost benefit for the attackers, and attacker capability. For example, a state-sponsored group has high capability. Script Kaido is low capability. Impact is the consequences engine. It's the extent of damage or harm to an organization resulting from the loss of confidentiality, integrity, or availability. These three words, confidentiality, integrity, availability, form the famous CIA triad of information security. Is the output. It can be qualitative, like very high, medium, or low, or it can be quantitative, expressed as annual loss expectancy in monetary value, for example, 200,000 euro per year. A modern trend is the move toward quantitative risk. Methods like fair factor analysis of information risk help companies put a real number of cyber risk. This is very useful when you talk to the board because the board understands euros and dollars much better than high or medium. Impact is not only money. This slide shows four dimensions of impact, and good risk assessment look at all of them. Financial and business impact, loss of businesses, financial value or market share. This is the most visible dimension. Operational impact, impaired internal or third-party operations, damage to business functions, delayed deadlines. For example, a hospital cannot perform surgeries because systems are down. Human and safety impact, loss of life, harm of individuals, loss of freedom of privacy. This is critical in healthcare, transport, and in energy. The 2020 ransomware case in Düsseldorf, Germany, where a patient died after being redirected from a hospital under attack, is a tragic example. Reputational and legal impact, damage to public trust, breaches of legal, statutory, regulatory requirements. With GDPR, fines can reach 4% of global turnover. With NIS2 and DORA, fines are management responsibility are also growing. The yellow box at the bottom give us the key insight. Server technical breach on a low value. Isolated assets generates low business impact. A minor technical disruption on a critical financial node generates catastrophic impact. So technical severity does not always equal business impact. Impact is defined by the business, not the IT department. This is why risk management must be a conversation between IT and the business, not only inside IT. Now we move theory to practice. How do we actually do risk management? This slide shows the engine of execution with two main fuel sources, ISO 27005 standard and the NIST risk management framework. The mandate is clear. We must shift from ad hoc technical patching to a disciplined, structured, and flexible process for managing security. No more firefighting. We need a system. The two kits are the international frameworks. They use different words, but they share one objective: drive risk to acceptable levels through a continuous interactive cycle. Risk management is never done, it's a loop. The core principles are four: context establishment, risk assessment, which has three parts: identify, analyze, evaluate, then risk treatment, and finally continuous monitoring. If you remember only these four pillars from the whole presentation, you already know the heart of risk management. Let's look at the NIST risk management framework in more detail. It has 7 steps and they form a continuous cycle. Step 1, prepare, establish context and priorities at the organization and system levels. Without context, the rest does not work. You must know your business goals, your legal duties, and your risk appetite. Step 2, categorize, define the system and the information proceed based on impact analysis. It's a public website or it's a system with classified data. The category drives everything that follows. Next, step 3, select, choose tailored control baseline. NIST publication 𝗪𝗏𝗀𝗃𝗃 has hundreds of controls, but you select only what is needed. This is the principle of proportionality. Step 4, implement. Deploy controls and document how they are deployed. Documentation matters because what is not written cannot be audited. Step 5, assess. Determine if controls are implemented correctly and are operating as intended. Don't assume, verify. Step 6, authorize. Senior official makes a risk-based decision to operate the system. This is a key point. A real human accepts the residual risk and sign the document. Risk acceptance is leadership responsibility, not a technical one. The last one, step 7, monitor. Continuously track changes to the system and the environment. Threats change, business changes, control degree over time. This is why monitoring is the bridge back to step 1. The center of the slide says it well. NIST risk management framework links essential risk management process at the system level directly to the C-level organization. This is what we call governance. On the European side, we use the ISO standards. ISO 31000 is the general framework for any kind of risk, financial, operational, strategic. ISO 25 and 27 and 5 is the specific guide for information security risk. The principles in clause 4 of ISO 31000 tell us that the risk management is integrated, customized, and dynamic. It exists to create and protect value. This is a beautiful idea. Risk management is not only about avoiding loss, it's about creating value. The framework in clause 5 is built around leadership and commitment. Without top management, risk management fails. The framework includes integration, design, implementation, evaluation, and improvement. This sounds like the famous plan, do, check, act cycle of quality management, and that is not by accident. ISO standards share a common structure. The process in clause 6 is the heart of execution. The process core of ISO 27 and 5 is risk assessment, identification, analysis, evaluation, followed by risk treatment. Around this core, we have communication, consultation, monitoring, review, recording, and reporting. So the assessment is not done in isolation, it's done with stakeholders and it is documented. Risk treatment itself is iterative. We formulate options, implement treatment, assess effectiveness, and decide if the residual risk is acceptable. If not, we go back and try again. Many people ask, which framework should I choose, NIST or ISO? The honest answer is that there are two paths to the same destination. Both start with context establishment. NIST calls it prepare and categorize. ISO calls it context establishment, same idea. Both have risk assessment with identification, analysis, and evaluation. Now in NIST, this is embedded in the prepare and select steps. Both have mitigation, which is selected and implement in NIST, and risk treatment in ISO. Both have validation. NIST calls it access. ISO calls assessing effectiveness. Both require governance. NIST has authorized, ISO has risk acceptance, where the residual risk is formally accepted. And both, and with ongoing visibility, monitoring NIST, monitoring and reviewing ISO. The golden line at the bottom is critical. Both frameworks demand that senior leadership accepts accountability for the residual risk. The CEO, the CISO, and the board cannot delegate risk acceptance to a junior engineer. This is now also a legal requirement under NIS2 and DORA in the European Union. This will show why in 2026 risk management is not optional. It's the foundation of compliance. In the past, compliance was a checklist of static technical controls. You bought a firewall, you ticked a box, you were compliant. Those days are gone. Modern European and global regulation mandate a risk-based approach. Look at the three pillars on the slide: DORA, CRA, and ISO 27001. They all stand on one base: dynamic risk management. This means continuous evidence-based and business-aligned risk management. The second message is even more important. You cannot comply with modern regulation by simply buying security tools. You must prove that you understand your risk exposure, your supply chain, and your impact on the broader ecosystem. Supply chain risk is now central. The SolarWinds attacks in 2020 and MOVEit attacks in 2023 showed that an attack on one supplier can affect thousands of customers. This is why CRA and DORA pay so much attention to third-party risk. Let's now look more closely at the three big regulations and standards that shape our work today. First, the Cyber Resilience Act. The focus is on products and software with digital elements. The risk mandate introduce mandatory security requirements for digital products to reduce systemic vulnerabilities through security by design and formal vulnerability disclosure. This means that very soon every product with a digital element sold in the European Union must show CE marking that includes cybersecurity. Manufacturer must do risk assessment, manage vulnerabilities, and provide updates. This is a huge change, similar to the safety revolution we had decades ago for electrical products. Second, the Digital Operation Resilience Act, or DORA. The focus is on the financial sector and ICT providers. DORA became fully applicable in January 2025. The risk mandate demands comprehensive management of interconnected digital environments and specifically targets ICT supply chain risk and cross-organizational coordination. Banks, insurance companies, and investment firms must now register all their critical ICT third-party providers and run regular threat-led penetration testing. The European supervisory authorities can even directly supervise critical ICT providers. Third, ISO 27001 standard. The focus is on information security management system. The risk mandate in clause 6.1.2 requires an organization to formally assess information security risk and treat them based on the organization's unique business drivers. ISO 27001 is voluntary, but it's the gold standard for proving that your organization is mature. Many trends and contacts now require ISO 27001 certification. They three are not in completion. They work together. CRA is about your products. DORA is about your financial operations. ISO 27001 is about your management system. Together, they form coherent picture of cyber resilience for Europe. This is our final content slide, and it brings everything together. The image on the left show reactive defense, cracked shield breaking under attacks. The image on the right show a resilience advantage, glowing network that absorbs and redirect attacks. Below the image, we have 4 golden rules on risk. Rule 1, cybersecurity is borderless. You cannot define everything. Priorities by business, value, and consequence. Choose your battles. Rule 2, share responsibility. Your risk is inherited by your supply chain, and you inherit theirs. Manage the ecosystem. No company is an island, especially in the digital world. Rule 3, continuous calibration. Risk management is an iterative cycle, not a yearly audit. Our threats and business change every day, so risk management must also be a daily practice. Rule 4, value creation. Good risk management does not just prevent loss, it builds the trust required to innovate and accelerate in a digital world. Customers, partners, and regulators all want to work with companies they can trust. And the final quote, please read it with me in your mind. The goal is not a perfectly secure system, but a resilient organization capable of operating confidentiality within different level of risk. This is the heart of modern cybersecurity, not perfection, resilience, not zero risk, tolerable risk, not paranoia, confidence. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope this session helped you to start thinking in risk, not only in security. Remember, identify your assets, understand your threats and vulnerability, measure your impact, and treat your risk with discipline. My contact details are on the screen. Feel free to write to me, and I will be happy to continue the conversation. Now I will give you the floor to my colleague Yasen Tanev. Thank you, and stay resilient.
Hello, Miro. Do you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Yasen.
Yeah, I'm Yasen Tanev, and I'm presenting this presentation from Sofia, Bulgaria. And I'm going to turn on my camera so you can see also me.
We can identify that you are not an AI.
This is a thing that can be confirmed only on extensive tests and questions, and I'm not sure can the human pass the Turing test. So I'm a hybrid Christian. Definitely, I'm not anymore the one that I was
your
before.
Avatar.
No, the human is here, the body, but the brain is having part of it merged with artificial intelligence and technology. Okay, I'm going to share my screen because I believe this is important also if we're going to do our presentation. Let me do this. Did we see the screen? Full screen, full banner? Yes, everything's fine, I believe.
Yes, compliant, fully compliant.
Yeah, so we that are coming from the project, we are like, as I say, the sport stars. So it's important to know who is funded. We are co-funded from the European Union and the European Cybersecurity Competence Center. It's not all about the funds, but it's mandatory to recognize the support. And me personally, I'm supporting this fantastic team of experts, just bringing the things operationally and I'll say that you can apply tomorrow and get benefits in the afternoon. So starting forward on the presentation, I'm going to talk about the practical approach on the risk and the risk management. And we're going to discuss what we've done before. Probably you remember the Stardust company, which is producing the Stardust decoders and analyzing the meteoric dust which falls on the ground. So we are proceeding again with this project. So we're going to get deeper. The previous days we were talking about the OSCAR platform. So if you didn't watch my previous presentation, go and watch them. Then we saw the assessment, then we understand the bill of materials, then we also show the scans, how it works. And now we are assuming that this is well known to the auditory, so we're going to proceed further and discuss. And all these things you can do in our platform. So don't be afraid, go test it, try it, and send a feedback, but it works. I even tested today again with the new scans and new bill of materials. But the CRA is really changing the game. If you're in the scope, if you don't know what is the scope, go and test yourself into the platform. Then it's usually if the product has a digital component and it's directly or indirectly connected to another device, and it's not covered by specific regulations like marine, medical, CO2 measuring, or military. So if you're there, you need to have the security by design, which is meaning that you should really think from the moment that you have your emerge idea for the product or the market need it. Then security across the full life cycle, it means what 𝗪ṛosław was talking, that it's an unstoppable process of managing the risk and mitigating them, also keeping your company value. And something that I like a lot is that the compliance should be demonstratable. And demonstratable, it means that you should leave the marks of all your efforts, because the trust is good thing, but it's not demonstratable. It should have this kind of marks which are giving you the trust. So the product, the bill of materials, it's becoming really composite, more even composite than we are thinking as a bill of materials, because I'm going to ask from what is made your product. So definitely, if it's a digital, there is on-site or there is a cloud shared infrastructure. In the first seminars, we are talking about the partners who is going to be a part of the product under the CRA. So if there is a cloud computation which is related with the primary functionality, you should consider them. So it's a runtime and infrastructure, which is definitely a supply chain. Then they're bringing up these dependencies. So from the bottom, everything goes up and it aggregates on you. So you have these transitive dependencies. Then you have the open source or commercial libraries, and they are part of your software bill of materials. And in the end, when you're doing the final product, it's you. You're the responsible one. So you should have a visibility. And this visibility is to know what is inside. Because when you know what is inside, then you're able to evaluate the risk. And when you're able to evaluate the risk, then you're able to mitigate them. If you don't know what is inside, then you're blind for the risks. And it's not going to be a risk management, is going to be living in a crisis. So moving to the next slide. This is the real vulnerability scan, which was made on an imaginary product that I'm supporting and I'm registering and managing through our platform, the OSCAR. And in my platform, when we did the scan with the vulnerability scanning tool of the 𝗪𝗁𝗏 based on my software 𝗪𝗶𝘀𝗀𝗺𝗏, which the previous time was demonstrated how it looks like and what's inside. So we discovered that we have two components with their versions, because the version is very important when you're doing the bill of materials, because it's important with the vulnerabilities. We identified that there is vulnerabilities which are based to the 𝗪𝗏 and the other is injection, pollution, and denial of service attacks. So when you discover the vulnerability, the first thing is very important. You should be honest. Yes, there is ossification, but again, you should consider it in the context of your solution. So from our point of view, we identified one as a critical and one as a high medium. And this is what Miroslav was explaining before, that when you're having the idea about what is what, the risk management is starting from understanding the assets. So the work for J core is an asset, part of your products, and then to identify what are the vulnerabilities. And when you know what is the vulnerabilities, then you can assume what is the chance that has to be exploited and what's going to be the effect of this exploitation. So look at this, be honest, and the next step, which the CRAE expect, is to convert the vulnerabilities into the risks, because this is the combination of the vulnerability, the threat actor, and your product. And here is something which is not very easy to understand what can become a risk and what is not, and why it's not or why it is. You should be very honest also here. So when you have the findings on the previous page, then you're doing the risk identification, and the risk identification is what can go wrong and what can be a negative impact on me. Then think, ask, evaluate, use technology, and ask what is the likelihood and impact. This is the two figures which when you multiply, you can get the risk. When you have the risk, then the next question is, can I accept it or not? Because if you're careless and you don't want to survive on the European market, you can accept any risk. But if you want to survive, and you should not accept mid and high risk, so you should mitigate them. And this is the treatment plan, which is showing how you're going to implement this risk decrease, and that you're going to take care about your customers and your products users. And till here, you're having things which are more like desiring and thinking about them. But if you want to have a proof and to demonstrate the compliance, then all these steps and what you're going to act and how you're going to act it and what is going to be done and how it is done and the effect of these things that you're doing to mitigate the risk, they should be documented. And this is a thing that you also can see in our platform, because when you have the scans, when you identify them, then you can create the task, and then these tasks, you can proceed them and you can manage it. It's also interesting that in the 𝗪𝗏𝗏 platform, the vulnerabilities are not converted directly to the tasks, because it's the point that you evaluated. So this is the risk assessment. And moving forward, this is the minimum that you should have on your risk register. This is the core of the compliance artifact, because if you don't have the risk assessment, if you're not managing properly the risks, nothing else can be proved. The other thing is chaotic actions in the crisis mode. So this is a single source of truth and reference. It's related to the technical documentation, and also is bringing you the audit readiness, because the audits are going to happen. And it's also very good place where you can track what's going on with your devices and how they're improving the risk status forward on the dynamic context of the reality. And so what should have risk ID, the component that is in the context, this is something valuable, then the vulnerability, impact, because impact is important to know what's going to be affected, how you're going to treat it, what is the owner, because risk without owners, this means nobody takes cares about it, the status of this risk and the procedures of the treatment, and then the evidence which is related to third-party action works. Example of the risk register, we have our 2 discoveries, the risk, the critical statuses, how you're going to treat them, what is the status. When you have this, what is the next step? We should assign who is going to do it, who is going to do the upgrades, who is going to make it applicable to the end user, who is going to do the test, who is going to write the report. So always introduce the owners, create the task and attach evidences, because you should demonstrate this. And what you're calling the traceability and compliance demonstration. If you don't believe me, ask 𝗪ощ. Still, I can say that he is the most capable auditor in Bulgaria, and definitely one of the top 5 probably in Eastern Europe. I have him as a favorite for my number 1.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, when I believe on something, I'm saying it. But 𝗪ощ, just tell me, as an auditor, if we are doing it this way, the traceability, you have the records about the risk, then you decide what to do, then you should have the disintermediation tickets, which says what you're going to do. And then when you decide that something is going to be done and you're doing it, because it's a code, you should have the change request, and you should have the PR pull request, which is confirming that this was tested and in production. And after that, you're doing a build, then you're validating, and then you're having a package which is distributed again. So if you want to have a secure, traceable from risk to the distribution, then you should have all these tasks. And definitely after you distribute the new version, it's even good before that to do the new clean scan and update the software bill of materials. Is it sounds reasonable, 𝗪ощ?
Yeah, confirm.
Yeah, so it's confirmed, it's a truth. Then moving to the next practical thing, there are different ways to manage the risk. The one is the mitigate, so you're patching, you're moving. Then the next option is to avoid, so probably you're looking for alternatives and replacing or changing the design. The accept is also an option, but you should document this decision and understand what the risk and what are the use cases. So you probably should write it somewhere. This device is risky in usage of these circumstances. And then you should monitor what's going on, because sometimes accepting and documenting the decision of accepting the risk can bring you more attacks on these vectors, and because the users are not always listening to you. So this is another step to manage the risk by deciding which of these 4 steps are good for you. We're approaching the final of the practical risk management on the coming from the SBOM. So when you find the vulnerability in the life cycle, you should decide, can we release or not? And when you're doing the release, you should do probably patching. Probably you should justify the residual risk, how much left after that, or just keep the product a little bit more, or the next release when it's defined. We see this a lot in the different industries, recall of the products, replacement, which is not a good thing. And when you're talking about the risk, you cannot cover all the risk. This is also was mentioned from 𝗪ощ. So we are going to agree on something. You should have a priority, which means the biggest first. Then the release approvals, it should be documented. Then we should have the resources which are going to guarantee that we're going to have success. And the communication with the stakeholders is very important, because this is your market, this is your business, this is your supply chain. So this is all made for humans. But Christian asked me, am I human or not? And I'm going to introduce you 5 slides and 1 extra, which is AI based. the job is a what? The humans are not enough. We're unstable emotionally and physically from time to time. So we need to find a way that we can compensate our deficits and as a species. So we tested and we see that the AI is really going very well. It's not in the 𝗪𝗀𝗧𝗏 platform, but we are working as an open source and community sharing concept, how you can integrate the AI into the 𝗪𝗀𝗧𝗏 platform. So the idea is that when you do the scans and when you have results which are coming in a JSON files, you have the bill of materials, then you have a spreadsheet with materials or any kind of information, then you have the tickets, then you have documents. These things can become really, really a huge amount of data that you can lost yourself. I'm even seeing my colleague in front of me, the developer, which is holding his head when I'm talking about all these papers and documents. So the AI is not replacing the human, it's assisting. So when the things are starting to speed up and grow, considering that also the AI become a very good penetration tester and vulnerability scanner, we can use the AI to structure the findings, to do the risk records all the time the same way for us, to do a task creation integrated to our system, and to create the evidence packaging. And we can create a couple of skills. So I'm going to show you 3 skills which are AI ready. So we can create the vulnerability scanning skill, which from raw scans, which are coming out of the 𝗪𝗧𝗏 platform. Then we have the components, the CV and severity data. Then you can convert it to the structured findings, and it can be presented as a list with vulnerabilities and prioritization. Then the good trained AI supporting the human in secure environment, not untested. Don't forget the AI up here. Can help you to do the risk records. It works good. It can help you to fill the Excel tables. It can help you to open the tickets. So from vulnerabilities to risk, it's working well. And the last thing is verifying and leading you on the process of doing this operation practical and validated. We can use the AI to validate the traceability and the quality of traceability. From the scan results to the evidence package with the pull request links, everything can be streamlined in the process. And I'm going to show you what I have in mind. And AI definitely is a good tool, but you need to consider the AI security and AI Act or 42001 ISO if you want to get deeper into this topic. But what is good, because it is good on analyzing the findings with the raw scans, it's good on doing the security risk. It can connect and correlate tasks. Even it can help you to prove the evidence about what you're doing by checking your quality. And the final slide before I'm closing, it's a pre-final slide, is that we created, and I'm going to show you how it looks like. So let me drop here this window. Can somebody confirm me that it's seen? Yes, Christian? Okay.
Yes, yes.
So we created a CRA SBOM risk assistant skill, which is ready for ChatGPT. And this skill, I drop here the bill of materials, and I just told him, just started the CRA skill. This is the beginning of my risk assessment process. Can you analyze and be guided? So starting from here, the process is starting to guide you. So I say, we have different stage. The current stage is risk assessment, because we already have the vulnerability scanning and the SBOM, what is available inside, what gaps we need to call. I have some questions to you, because in the skill, we added questions which are going to fill the usual gaps of the deficit, the BOM summary, the vulnerability summary, the risk assessment state with a table, the risk assessment treated one based on the good practices, and traceability chain for each of every of the issues. And when we come here to the bottom, so I say, can you create one-pager report, please? So it generated for me one-pager report. This skill is working into ChatGPT. I can continue because here is what's next. So I can proceed with my compliance. So I say, freeze the current assessment package, create remediation tickets, decide release blocking rules, perform remediation before you go forward. All set up, and with a plugin to Jira or to Trello, it can be really interestingly extended. So this is your checklist. Simple but efficient. This works not only here, it works also in Codex. So I'm going to drop it here. So you see the same skill inserted in Codex, and this is remediation tasks, but it works in Codex, which is another way to work with AI. And we just finished the task into the quote. So we have a new quote skill, which is working, showing the test result, validation. Why I'm showing you this? Because the knowledge of the humans in the end should be converted to technology which is repeatable and traceable. If you're interested from our skills for OpenAI, for Quote, and for Codex, just write to us, and we're going to provide you with the skill files and with the MD descriptions. And in the end, this presentation was able because the OSCAR team and the colleagues engaged in it were co-funded by the European Union, the European Cybersecurity Competence Center, the OSCAR Open Source Cyber Resilience Act 2 is here and ready. We are expanding it, and we are ready to share what we know and how we do it. So thanks for listening, and any questions, I'm available. Christian, am I human or AI? You should decide it, but definitely I'm working a lot with the AI, but on a trusted and secure environment.
Thank you very much, Yasen. Speaking about trusted and secure environment, I think it would be a good idea to continue the series beyond the project and maybe have a discussion in particular concerning about the use of AI in a business setting, application in a safe and compliant manner. And you would be the right person. Also, Miroslav, as both of you are co-founders of the Bulgarian AI Institute, and we highly appreciate your knowledge and expertise in that regard. I am now adding our third speaker as a panelist. So in a second, he will have the opportunity to share the screen. I'm officially promoting Adrian as a panelist, and Adrian will now be able to not only hear and see us, but also to contribute. So Adrian, the moment you feel ready, I see you now. You can step in the role of a speaker. This is Adrian. This is not Ekaterina. Ekaterina is another colleague of our team, of the OSCRAT team, who already raised a flag, a hand, and is willing to join us in further webinars. Right now, Adrian just simply joined through her account. But Adrian, please introduce yourself, and I'm looking forward to your contributions again. Really grateful to have you on our workshop today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adrian Angel, and I will be presenting the last topic in place of my colleague Andrei Hohan. I have 15 years of experience in cybersecurity and compliance in my role here at NRSEC. I'm part of the OSCRAT team, where my main focus was the development of our CRA compliance questionnaires. Today, I will present to you how to manage the risk from a CRA perspective. I will share my screen.
We can see your screen. Thank you. Thank you, Adrian.
Okay. The CRA is fundamentally a risk-based regulation. It does not hand manufacturer a fixed checklist to tick off. Instead, it asks, what could go wrong with this product? Who could exploit it? What would the impact be? And make security decision on that basis. The regulation's own phrase is appropriate, it's a quote, appropriate level of cybersecurity based on the risk. And that is the lens through which everything else must be read. Second important point, there is not an one-off exercise before going to market. The risk perspective applies across the entire life cycle, from planning to design to production to maintenance. And finally, the essential requirements in Annex 1 have two complementary sides. One focus on the security properties of the product itself, and one focus on how the manufacturer handles vulnerabilities once the product is out there. Both are driven by the risk assessment, and we look at on the next slides. This is where the regulation moves from principle to obligation. CRA does not just ask manufacturers to be aware of risk. It mandates a structured, documented risk assessment as part of conformity. The content is defined. It must be tied to the specific product, intended purpose, foreseeable use, operational environment, assets involved, and how long the product stays in service. From this, two conclusions must follow: which essential requirements apply, and how they are implemented, and how vulnerability will be handled. The risk assessment is not an internal note. It goes into the technical documentation that authorities can request. If a requirement that does not apply, that fact must be justified in writing. Proportionality matters. Recital 55 acknowledges that some requirements may not fully fit a product's intended purpose or constraint, but the burden is on the manufacturer to argue why with evidence, not to skip it silently. A common misconception is that the CRA risk assessment is something you write once, sign, file, and forget. The regulation explicitly contradicts that. It must be maintained for the entire support period, the time you have committed to keep the product alive on the market. Why? Because new vulnerabilities, new attacks technique, product changes, unanticipated use cases, every material change shifts the risk picture, and the assessment has to follow. This is what makes risk management the connective tissue of CRA compliance. Risk identify drive which requirements apply. Requirements drive which controls you implement. Control must be backed up by evidence. That chain, risk, requirement, control, evidence, is what an auditor will follow. It is also the chain we follow in the next slides, where SBOM and vulnerability data feedback into the same picture. You cannot manage risk for components. You do not know that the risk exists. That is why the CRA in Annex 1 Part 2 makes the SBOM a hard requirement, not a best practice. So it's not optional. Every software component that ends up in your product, proprietary, licensed or open source, all that software must be listed in a structured, machine-readable format. In practice, that means SPDX or CycloneDX. The regulation requires at least the top-level dependencies. Why does this matter for risk? Because if a critical vulnerability is announced tomorrow, the SBOM is what lets you answer. Are we affected? And this answer is in minutes instead of weeks. And because the different products versions ship with different components, the SBOM lives at version level, not to product level. This is very important. Once you have an SBOM, automated scanning compares each component against vulnerability database, CVE, NVD, GitHub, advisory, the European vulnerability database, etc. The output is a list of CVE that may affect your product. Here is a trap many teams fall into. A vulnerability detected by a scanner is not yet a risk. A critical CVE in a library you include, but never call, is a very different matter than the same CVE in a component exposed to untrusted input. Risk evaluation bridge this gap. Exploitability, exposure, impact on users, including health and safety. CRA explicitly notes. Only then come a sensible treatment decision. What we get is a continuous loop as SBOM, scan, vulnerability, risk treatment, evidence. And CRA expects this loop to run for the entire support period of the product. Documentation under CRA is not a paperwork exercise. It's the audit trail. Our Article 31 in Annex 7 require manufacturers to compile a technical file before placing the product on the market, demonstrating not just that the product is compliant, but how. The content include the product description, the design and development processes, the risk assessment we discussed, and SBOM and vulnerability handling process, applied standards, and the declaration of conformity. All these files is not static. It must be kept current for the entire support period and retained for at least 10 years after market replacement. But we have good news here for small companies. Recital 93 instruct the Commission to establish a simplified technical documentation form for micro enterprises and small enterprises, recognizing that proportionality applies to administrative burden too. Auditability is what makes the documentation actually useful. The test is simple. If market surveillance authorities show up tomorrow and ask why you classify the vulnerability as low priority, or why a particular essential requirement does not apply to your product, your documentation has to give them the answer, not require a forensic exercise. In practice, this means evidence by design. Every compliance claim should be backed by a chain. Identified risk leads to applicable requirement. Requirement leads to implemented control. Control leads to test results or artifacts, providing it works. If any links is missing, the chain breaks, and the audit, we did it, but didn't record it carries the same weight as we didn't do it at all. This is exactly the chain that 𝗪_𝗏 was designed to maintain, and that is what we look at the next slide. Once a risk is evaluated, you have to decide what to do with it. The four classical options apply here: accept, reduce, avoid, or transfer. But here is the CRA twist. The regulation does not let you to accept any risk. Because you maybe you want to accept a risk that is inconvenient for you to fix. Compliance is judged against a regulatory standard tied to the product's intended purpose and foreseeable use, not your internal cost-benefit calculation. Significant risk must be addressed before placing the product on the market. A residual risk that genuinely cannot be eliminated has to be communicated to the user in the information that accompanies the product as required by Annex 2. So the user must be informed. And every treatment decision, whatever the option chosen, must be documented and linked back to the risk it answers, because that is what auditability under the CRA actually means. This is where the 𝗪𝗏 tool operationalizes everything we have just discussed. Risk assessment, it's a first-class task type in the tool, always attached to a specific product version. So risks are never floating in the abstract. It's the capture is structured: asset at stake, threat description, which confidentiality, integrity, availability, properties affected, likelihood, impact, the owner of the risk. Exposure is calculated automatically from a 3-to-3 matrix, so no manual scoring spreadsheets to reconcile. Treatment is built into the same task. This task is an overall general task. One of the input is risk management. The treatment option is accept, reduce, avoid, or transfer, with the residual exposure and who is the person responsible for the implementation. The end result in something a CRA auditor actually wants to see: a product level risk register that it's auditable, traceable, and always tied to the product version it belongs to. The reason that CRA compliance breaks for most teams is not lack of the effort, it is fragmentation. Risk lives in one tool, vulnerability in another, scans in a third, and documents is on a, I don't know, shared drive. 𝗪𝗏 collapses this into a single product version workspace: SBOM, vulnerability scan, configuration assessment, risk assessment, and all the documents, all documents all hang off the same product version. When a vulnerability scan fails or a checklist item is not compliant, 𝗪𝗏 proposes a task. It's a pre-link to the source or to the source of the non-compliance. Evidence is uploaded where it actually belongs on the requirement or task it provides. The outcome is the chain we have been talking about along: risk to requirement to control to task to evidence. Exportable as a coherent audit package, not assembled in panic the night before an inspection. To wrap up, CRA reframes risk management from a security best practice into regulatory chain that you must be able to reconstruct on demand. The substance is not particularly novel. Risk-based thinking as BOM's vulnerability handling, residual risk, technical documentation. What is genuinely new is that all of these have to fit together, stay current, and remain visible to an external auditor for years after the product ships. The hardest part is not to understand the requirement. It is sustaining the chain across teams and across time. That is the gap 𝗪𝗏 was built to close. And the practical lesson, regardless of which tool you use, is the same. The earlier risk thinking is built into your compliance, your development lifecycle. The smaller the compliance will become at the end. I think that's all for my side. If you have any question.
Thank you very much, Andrei. There is a question from 𝗪ṛ𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗏. Sorry, 𝗪ṛ𝗏𝗪, if I'm not pronouncing correctly. And 𝗪ṛ𝗏𝗪, I just gave you the, I wouldn't say right, but obviously the technical functionality for you to raise the question directly, as I see that you have raised your hand. So if the question is still open, please, now the floor is yours. Please, 𝗪ṛ𝗏𝗪, you can unmute yourself and bring up the question that you may be having. I'll give you a second to unmute. You should have this option. If for some technical reason you can't, you can write in the chat. While we are waiting for 𝗪ṛ𝗏𝗪, Andrei, there is another question in the Q&A chat. It's coming from Benjamin, and the question is about relief measures. What relief measures are planned for medium-sized businesses exactly under the CRA? I have some ideas what this may be about, but if Miroslav, Yasen, or Andrei would like to comment on relief measures and what relief measures are planned as per the question, please, you are invited to provide feedback to our colleague, despite, I suppose, the question being a bit out of the range of today's workshop, as it is strictly and solely dedicated to risk management.
Yeah, I didn't understand very well the question related to the medium companies.
Yes, if there are relief measures to medium-sized companies in terms of conformity obligations under the CRA. Maybe, Andrei, you can think about the potential feedback if you are ready and comfortable to provide. Prior to that, I can share my idea, as indeed the question is a bit vague. But my main feedback to anything that Benjamin may have heard about relief, there is one main point I want to address here. Medium-sized businesses are not exempt from CRA compliance, as long as they place on the European market product with digital components after the deadline set for 27. So they despite not being like qualifying as big enterprises, SMEs still need to meet product security, vulnerability handling, technical documentation, conformity requirements, all the menu of requirements that we actually enable to be responded against through the platform and through the tools that we are building. So I wouldn't say that relief measures are some form of a lighter legal regime based on the size. They're basically different measures to support and proportionally address.
Proportionality, yes, this is the correct word, the proportionality measures. The measures are the same for for all the companies. So what they try to simplify is the declaration of conformity for small companies. But all the technical measures are the same. Doesn't matter the dimensions of the organizations.
And actually, Benjamin, who brought the question, also this type of relief is it's more or less guidance. It's that there is guidance by the European Commission. I need to check a certain communication around it, but basically part of what is happening today can also be considered as a relief measure. So training, awareness raising, advice channels that will be available. They're not available yet, but will be testing support, conformity assessment support. There will be regulatory sandbox programs and the different EU-funded tools and projects beyond the ones we are currently announcing, and you are actually currently part of a workshop under one of such project. So all of these are being made available for SMEs in terms of free tooling and consultancy, and can be considered as also relief measures. And in that regard, I'm just going to share.
I'm back. Sorry, Christian.
Not a problem, yes. And if you want to step in and, for example, answer the question that we are currently discussing from the Benjamin side, you are invited to do so. If not, we are right now discussing on what Benjamin asked regarding relief measures, an announcement about relief measures for SMEs. But what I'm going to share right now, sorry about all the noise on my screen. I want to share on Cyberstand EU. As I mentioned, this is one of the projects in support of SMEs compliance. In particular, actually, the Cyberstand EU project helps more or less the standardization efforts around the CRA application, but it also helps build a consortium of all the projects over here that provide basically free consultancy to the attention to the availability of small and medium enterprises. And one particular project among these, because most of them are about tooling. So building tools that will enable your compliance, self-assessment, and to a certain extent assessment, external assessment through conformity assessment bodies, in case your products are fitting into this particular niche or area of products with digital components that would be, I would say, covered by such a regime. But my point here is totally different. There is one among these projects that, as of today, is also providing funding. This funding is in the form of grant, which grant can be used for you to improve the security, the compliance posture of your products, so that when the time comes for either self-assessment or assessment for conformity through a conformity assessment body, you are better positioned to go smoother and faster and more efficiently through this project. So the funding that is currently being provided is coming from the Secure project, and I'm just going at secure4sme.eu to demonstrate that the call for SMEs to apply for funding in the form of a grant up to 30,000 euro just closed in late March, but there would be a few more calls. So Benjamin, please go at secure4sme.eu, make sure to bookmark the website, and potentially look into any newsletter from our colleagues that may actually be very useful to you to sign up for, because the next funding call is around the corner, will be announced, and when it is, it will enable exactly a measure that I would say can be considered as a relief measure. If your, of course, company qualifies for such support. Now it's a 50% grant. What it means is that half of the funding needs to be matched. So if you have a grant for 20,000 euro, you need to match the similar amount and invest this in security advancement, consultancy services. There is a Q&A section that actually demonstrates what particular support activities can be funded. And this is something that would be available for the months to come for medium enterprises such as yours, as I suppose the question is coming from a colleague working in such a company, will benefit from. And yep, with this, I would say did the feedback that I wanted to provide. If I see in the chat, yeah, I see.
To conclude, the requirements are the same for all the companies. The difference is on the product in itself, and we need to be specific to the product.
Yeah.
To take into consideration intended purpose, foreseeable use, operational environment, and everything, every aspect. The help for small and medium companies is because they don't have enough resources to address this compliance and conformity. They commissions give them opportunity to make a self-declaration in a small form and to complete less papers.
Thank you, Andrei. Thank you, Andrei. Now I'm making an open call towards Miroslav and Yasen if they have something additional included in the agenda for today, as we are in the closing section. So Miro, Yasen, if I'm overstepping and you have additional insights or calls to action prepared, please interrupt me at any point to announce them. If not, or in the meanwhile, I just want to mention that every time when we look into these workshops and what insights and value we try to provide through them, we always go beyond the CRA topic. As you heard today, we also looked into what the NIST approach is on risk management. Andrei provided us with particular insights on how the tracking of your risk management activities and efforts is going to be done through the platform. And I want to now just touch on the risk management as defined per NIS2, with an important, of course, disclaimer. NIS2 is another framework, regulatory framework, which is on a organizational level, while CRA addresses the security of particular products with digital components. And the linkage is not direct between the two directives. But in our particular risk management case, I would say there is a direct linkage in the following manner. What risk management actually is and what it contains in terms of efforts that you need to demonstrate is very well defined both in the CRA and in NIS2. And I would say the definitions are not competing each other. I will add in the materials of today's workshop 2 presentations. One is particularly on the wording in the CRA, and one is around NIS2 and where this, I would say, overstep, where you have very good, I would say, synchrony between the two legislative frameworks. And right now I simply presented Article 21 of the Network and Infrastructure Security Directive 2 of 2022, which kicked in late 24, and still a few member states have not implemented. But it's a very good guiding point to what risk management measures can be taken and then reported, registered, tracked within the respective organizational level plans, and through these plans actually be made targeted to the particular products. So a variety of efforts ranging from the policies on risk analysis, information system security, through incident handling that we already covered within this workshop series, business continuity and supply chain security that we also already covered, security in network and information system acquisition, which again is related to the previous point of supply chain security, policies, procedures to assess the effectiveness of the measures. This is very important because it's not about what we do in terms of efforts solely or strictly speaking. It's also about the effectiveness of what we actually do and measuring the effectiveness. In addition to that, the basic cybersecurity hygiene practices and cybersecurity training. So no more products with predefined, pre-installed 4 zeros or 8 zeros as a PIN for the users is going to be allowed on the European market. So basic, really product cyber hygiene, I would say, measures. Policies and procedures regarding the use of cryptography, where applicable, encryption, human resource security, access control policies, and asset management, all of these very well known to you through the ISO 27001 framework that we already covered with Miroslav support very extensively through this series of trainings and workshops, and the use of different industry best practice measures, such as the ones listed here in the directive, the multi-factor authentication, continuous authentication solutions, and so on and so forth. So I am going to be attaching within the folder with resources from today's workshop a few important NIS2 related guidance reference materials. I'm just explaining you why you are going to see them, not because they're directly related with the CRA implementation and the support that you're going to receive through the OSCAR platform, but for the broader awareness raising on the subject of cybersecurity, product cybersecurity in particular, and how it's being covered through the different European legislative frameworks, how I would say initiatives under the same framework, how they complement each other, and how it is important to have understanding of the broader picture. This was my message. So keep parallel focus and track of not only what's happening in the CRA domain, what's happening in NIS 2, what is happening in the Cybersecurity Act domain. The latter two acts actually are currently right now in a procedure of public consultation. There is a draft published on the NIS2 amendments, and also it was recently announced, I believe it was in late February, if not in March, the initiative of the European Commission for publishing a new Cyber Security Act 2 that I would say is going to be discussed, debated on over the next 24 months, and then with the period of implementation, I would say it's not going to be in front of us earlier than 2029. But very interesting developments are going to occur from this particular field. So keep in mind about this. I would actually Cybersecurity Act 2 proposal for regulation. It's from January 2026. I will share in the chat, and just make sure to. Okay, that's not the right tool. Make sure to keep track, because we did a lot of disclaimers over these few months about the differences between CRA certification under the different certification frameworks under the Cybersecurity Act, how NIS2 is involved, the applicability of the standards of ISO for having or demonstrating conformity and compliance. The Cybersecurity Act 2, and as it's proposed, I believe, will help orchestrate better this broad, wide framework, fill in the gaps, and enable SMEs to track more easily their compliance obligations. Very interesting topics are being covered there. For example, the opportunity to certify the security on organizational level, not on product under CRA or on a different, I would say, process level, but on organizational. For example, a new scheme would be under development related to the trustworthiness of managed security service providers, MSSPs, so that you know that when, for example, you receive a grant to improve the security posture of your product and you go to a consultancy, you know that this is a certified company, similar to when you want to integrate in your pipeline a EUCC certified system or a product, and you want the certificate in front of you. So this is exciting to look into, but again, nothing right now on the horizon, immediate horizon ahead and in front of us. But again, I'm mentioning these things because we use the opportunities of these workshops and trainings to sync with each other from the previous months news feed. And I hope all the side comments and insights have been of use to everyone. Miro, I will give the opportunity to you to close the session. I just wanted to make this announcement, and everything else will be communicated on an ongoing basis through the official 𝗪𝗏 channels. So this is the last workshop of the series, but we will remain available. Miro, any last message in this or another context?
Thank you, Christian. I would like to extend my special thanks to all participants in the events organized under the 𝗪𝗏 project. During the monthly session held from September last year until today, we explored in detail the requirements of the Cyber Resilience Act, as well as the challenges faced by businesses and regulators in Europe. We still have much to accomplish together to truly speak about sustainable Europe. I hope that together.
You just got muted, by the way. Sorry about that. I mean, not on my end, but we lost you in the last second.
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Now?
Yeah.
Okay. We still have much to accomplish together to truly speak about sustainable Europe. I hope that together we will continue to enhance our competencies and successfully address the challenges of the surrounding environment. You remain at your disposal. If you have any questions or need consultation, you can contact us using the details provided in the presentation available to you. Thank you again, all of us.
Thanks everyone for attending. Have a great day ahead, and we remain available.